Alright, hello and welcome to OneShot. OneShot is a kind of adventure game where we are going to be running around solving puzzles to try and continue our adventure that has a very deep story to it that I'll explain more in the run. But before that, I want to explain what you're seeing right here specifically. Actually, what happens is this game very much likes to have some interesting moments, and a lot of things goes on behind the scenes that I want to bring up. So, for example, we have this file, which will come into play later. We have this file, which actually assists in something that's going to happen in the game itself. And we have the game launcher, which is actually going to be more important than you think. But, of course, I'm going to be focusing on the game itself, which I have in big screen, just to the right. I'm going to go through these menus here. Alright, so coming up here, I'm about to start movement, which once I gain control of the character Nico here is when the timer is going to start. There's 32 frames between when I hit this next input and when the time is supposed to start, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to start the timer as I jump out of the bed. Alright, just like that, we're off. I'm immediately going to get a few items to set up for things later, which is a huge thing in this run, is we like to do stuff now instead of later. So, I try and do a lot of things early, so that later on I have everything set up to just do it now. You could see there the game kind of messed me up a little bit by giving me an out-of-game prompt like you get from a Windows notification. You know, those little boxes you can drag around in Windows XP and it looks funny. I get some of those. And that's going to be a big thing in this game, is that it likes to go out of the fourth wall for stuff like world and character development. However, I would say it's not important in the story aspect. However, in all actuality, there's some stuff involving out-of-game moments that help the run. Here I need to equip this light bulb, but my cursor likes to default on the bottle sometimes. It's really weird how cursor defaulting works, to a point where I'm not entirely sure. But I've had a few theories about it that I've, again, need to look at in more detail. A lot of this game has finer details that you need to look at more to really understand what you're doing and get minor time saves. So now we're going to be heading into the first major area of the game. This is the Barrens. And we're going to gain the ability to fast travel here. So fast traveling is one of the biggest parts of the run. We can revisit any screen we've previously been to. And every time we fast travel, it'll set us to a set tile on the screen. So I'm going to go up there to the docks to get that fast travel point now. Again, now rather than later. And then I'm going to head down here, which is going to introduce mashing. This is a very story-based game, so there's a lot of text that you have to go through. The fastest way to go through this is to use a controller in which confirm is bound to one axis and cancel is bound to the other, and then rotate that stick. So right now on my controller, I'm using keyboard for movement and stuff and like more precise dialogues like that when I need to make sure I do a specific input. But right now, on this controller in my hand, left and right on the right stick are bound to confirm, and up and down are bound to cancel. And here we have a cutscene where we need to go in and out of that bed there. And then we have more dialogue to go through. Using the fourth wall, again, as character development here, we kind of learn about this world a bit, and that basically me, the person playing the game, is the god of the world, and I'm guiding Nico through it in order to save it. To save it, we need to bring this light bulb to the top of what is called the tower. as this light bulb is the world's new sun after something happened to the old sun. We never get insight on what happened to the old sun. But we need to get a new one up there. That's the mission. So here what I'm going to do, I mentioned fast traveling always brings you to the same point. So here I'm going to do what's called a super fast travel, where I'm going to fast travel off of a screen and back on to get farther on the screen in a shorter amount of time than walking would let me go. Or rather running, because running is my main movement speed. Walking any tile takes 16 frames, meanwhile running on a tile takes 10 frames. So although we can move 6 tiles in a frame while running, while walking we'd not even be able to move 4. So now coming up, we're going to enter Silver's house here to grab a screwdriver, and then we're going to head to the mines. Here I'm going to save a little bit of time. I mentioned walking slower. Silver walks. Basically every NPC walks in cutscenes. So by going to that one, it saves 6 frames. It's one of those really funny time saves that I love to point out. But in the mines, we get a little cutscene here, as well as a camera. And then we're going to leave the mines. Now, I'm going to head back to the outpost, where ProfitBot was. Profit's the person who gave us the exposition. I'm going to break into this box to get a solar battery. It's broken, unfortunately. However, I know how to fix it. I need to take the lens out of this camera with the screwdriver, put it into the battery, so now it's not broken, it just needs charging, and then charge it with the sun. It's a solar battery after all, and we literally have the sun in our hands. And then here, you're going to notice something just changed a little bit on this, right there. I didn't want to minimize it. So, at this point, when you talk to that computer, the game puts a random code into a text file in your documents. Yes, I'm not joking. A community member by the name of Firestrike has made a program that actually reads the safe code to us without having us to open the text editor. Originally, the strat was using Notepad++ to refresh the text editor once you gain access to the file. This game is absurd, to put it simply. But with the save code, we get a gas mask and a strange journal. We can use the gas mask to get up here to the old factory, in which we have sponge and gloves. Those are 2 things that usually go together fairly well. However, we don't have everything we need. So we're gonna go over more of the barrens. Not only the barrens, but every area in this game is shaped like a giant circle. Based around the tower being kind of the center of the circle. It's kind of like if you had a skewer, and then you had 3 marshmallows on the skewer. And I guess it's not really like that, because that would imply there are stories. But it's more like you're getting closer to the center, but they're all still circling around the tower in a way. So now coming up, we're in the shrimp swamp. We're going to put some stuff in that syringe, and then we're going to put some smoke in this bottle. All these air dunts, though, are too high, except for this one. So now we're going to make an acid. And then we're going to put the acid on the sponge, which, although not equipable, the game won't let us craft the wet sponge until we have the gloves, because that's just unsafe. Which I should mention, when I'm combining items like that, that's kind of the defining feature of this game. Alright, so there we cleaned off this robot that can help us get closer to the tower. However, it totally forgets where to go. So we powered it on with the generator, we cleaned it off with the acid, but now it doesn't know where to go. So we need to talk to Silver, who's going to give us a special item called the Amber. We're going to play a game of chess, which is a cutscene as to kind of repay her for helping us so much. And then we're going to head off with the robot. We need to equip the Amber so it remembers where to go. I And with that, that is the end of the first area of the game. We don't need the safe code thing that I just closed down. There are no more random codes for the rest of the run. There are times where there are codes, and there are times where there are points where we usually need to talk to a computer to get to puzzle solutions. However, we don't need those anymore since the rest of the game is not set in luck like the beginning. There is one point of luck, and one major point of it that we skip. But the one point of luck that is still remaining in the any percent run, and not the glitchless run, so it's not going to be skipped, is only 3 seconds max. So, coming up here, we're in the Glen, the second area of the game. We're going to immediately start by going to the forest and skipping a small cutscene by super fast traveling in and out. Just like that. Alright, now we're gonna be headed straight to the ruins. That first character there was Calamus, and Calamus is in quite a predicament right here. As we head into the ruins, he informs us that his sister has gone missing, and he does not know where to look. Spoiler alert, his sister is behind those vines. So what I'm going to try and do is get rid of those vines, which is going to bring me over here. Now this is Maze. There we go, now that we're over here. Maze is dying. However, if we give her the sun, she's going to kind of be able to de-stress, which will help her in her final moments, but also let her relax enough to let go of some of the vines in the area. So now with the vines gone, it's pretty self-explanatory what we're going to do. We're going to go back up to where the vines were, now that they're not, and we're going to go save Alula, who is stuck behind a puzzle here. This puzzle is always set. We just need to make a pattern of a light bulb on this floor. Just like that. So fun fact, if I go back to the person who's supposed to tell me the hint to this puzzle, and after this puzzle's already completed, they're gonna get very confused. However, I'm not gonna do that because it's slow to do that. It's just a fun little Easter egg if you manage to do this out of order. Same with any other time you use a computer like the one in the Barrens to solve the puzzle. He's over to the right, by the way. Just knowing this game from having played it a few times, you can skip a lot of stuff. By just, again, remembering where things are. But coming up, we have a pretty funny moment of the game. We have ram herding. So the way ram herding works is it's kind of like a strength puzzle that you'd find in Pokemon, say in Victory Road. But a ram baz every time you touch one. There we go. So yeah, trying to just do that in the least amount of steps possible is the best way to do it. And we get a patch of ram wool. Which we can trade in for this fabric dye. And now that we have the fabric dye, I'm going to return Alula to Calamus. And we're going to get invited to Calamus's house, which we want to take the invitation because they have a required item to finish the game. Now, if I had said no to the invitation to the house, I would have had to walk here myself, which would have wasted about 15 seconds of walking through the ruins. But I'd still get the Sacred Feather out of it, which is what I just got there and what I'd like to have to exit the area. But there's still one last thing we need to do. We need to get the sun back because we did give it to Maze at the beginning of the area, who is now passed away. If I can, thank you. So you saw a little sparkle on the ground. That seed that was on that ground was that sparkle. And if you want to go through a side quest of planting that with magical water and soil, you can. That is the major proponent of the 100% run of this game. However, since this is not 100%, we're not going to be doing that quest. And we still haven't slept. I slept earlier, you might remember, and it's an important part of each area. You're required to do it to see a cutscene. So we just kind of routed in right at the end, because the area that you need to go to leave the Glen has a fast travel point right where the bed is. So it's the best time to do it, and there's really no other time to do it. It's not like the docks where you have several points in time that you could go to the bed. It's really that was the only good time to do it. But now we're going to turn this feather into a feather pen with the dye, because in order to get to the next area of the game, we need to sign this scroll. And now we're going to get chased here. So these squares are not good. As Calamus mentioned, they kind of mess up everybody who touches them, and you really shouldn't touch them. I'm not going to get into detail about the squares, because I really think that the squares are defined better in post-game chapter Solstice, which, if you're watching this video, anybody that hasn't played this game, please play this game, and play the Solstice chapter for sure, because it's such... Again, I've mentioned it does the fourth storytelling through the fourth wall breaking, but it's just done so well, and I wish we could appreciate story in a speedrun, but speedruns don't work like that now, do they? Alright, so now we're gonna learn that the elevator's broken. So we need to fix the elevator button. The elevator button is magnetic, and that's important. But before we do any of that, we're gonna go right back to sleep. Now we need to go back to the cafe and start on actually making the elevator button. We've done the cutscene, now we need to do the gameplay. So starting off, we're going to get a metal can, and now we're going to be heading over here. The refuge is interesting because in the Barrens, we kind of just teleported through everything, and then in the Glen, we were able to not see entire areas. I bet you didn't know the Glen had a whole village area that we never saw. But the refuge really makes us, you know, look through every single corner of the city in order to give us what we want. Which makes it one of the hardest parts in the game to route, obviously. But fortunately, it's kind of sequential in what you need to do. You know, go to the elevator, go to the sleep, get the elevator materials. So it's not as bad as I might be making it sound. But now we have every part of the elevator, actually, so... I can make a magnetic button, kind of. It's not going to work if I use it like this. So I actually do have one more thing I need to do, which is bring it over to the top right. And tape it. There you go. So now that the ground part of the ground coffee tin is, you know, cut out, and magnets are taped to it, the magnetic button is going to function. After an elevator restart, of course, which we need a code for. So fun fact, I'm playing this game on the Steam release of the game, which is an updated version of the original release. This elevator code is actually not random because it is related to that original release, which was released on 6/30/14, or June 30th, 2014, which is, hey, that's the elevator code. So coming up now, we're going to have a cutscene with Nico and this lamplighter character in the elevator. Where... There we go. You do have dialogue options where you can get some exposition, or you can be a kind patron and, you know, just have awkward silence in the elevator, which it's slower to do. Usually you'd think, you know, not having to sit through dialogue is faster. However, if you go through all of Lamplighter's dialogue in that elevator, it ends the elevator ride faster than, you know, waiting through the awkward silence. So now we're into the ground part of the refuge, where I'm kind of setting up a fast travel chain here to get a bunch of locations now, and we're going to do kind of the run's defining glitch. This is kind of the defining thing of any percent. I'm going to do what's called Kip Skip. What's happening here is I'm walking onto this tile and then closing the game while walking, and what this does is it plays this cutscene that happens when you open the game, where Nico gets scared, kind of. And when Nico gets scared, that cutscene plays over many other cutscenes. And one such cutscene that played over right there was a cutscene where the librarian talked to me. Speaking of librarians, this librarian is George, but the librarian robot in particular Bookbot is the one that I wanted to skip the cutscene for. Because what Bookbot does is when you don't have a library card, he won't let you into the back of the library, which you need to get the third golden item. You might remember the amber and the feather. Well, we still need one more golden item, and George, the librarian, has it. So now, we kind of use that glitch I mentioned to skip that cutscene that pushes us backwards, so we can just get into this area now. And when George translates the journal, she'll give us the golden die, which is the third... There we go. Which is the third golden item. And also tells us that we need 3 golden items to go to the end of the game. So yeah, that's the cutscene that you usually see there. But if I do my input right, I'm now in endgame. Or I'm not now in endgame, but I'm now back on the other side of the desk and can leave. Although we're heading to endgame, I guess you could say. We just have this cutscene where Nico says that they're hungry, which is character development cutscene that I don't have to watch. If you go back up to the surface refuge and eat the pancakes at that little diner that was there where I got the coffee from, you get character development. But I don't need to watch that. With the end game coming up, though, the character development is really gonna ramp up because something's gonna happen. Also, this file right here that I just showed you, that with that clover, is now gonna become very important. So I'm actually gonna just boot it up right here, and you might see something funny happen soonish. But we have some cutscene where Nico's going to be very confused because we basically are not communicating with Nico right now. We can't. Usually those cutscenes where we talk to Nico after a dream are what we want to see, but to know that we're communicating, but we're not having those. Nico's just talking to themselves. And this computer is convincing Nico to sleep. Gonna get a few more of those text boxes. And boot up the game one last time. This clover file is important here. It is gonna be our guide through the final section of the game. So Nico's gonna wake up here, there's gonna be a little bit of cutscene, and then Nico's gonna realize something kind of weird. Is that there's something in their pocket that they didn't put in there. And that's a clover. And if you equip the clover, it'll be in the bottom right of your screen. And as you can see, this thing's about to change to be notes. These notes are supposed to guide you through the area. And as you can see there, there's a small clover icon. So what you're intended to do when you're casual playthrough, where you don't know the way through here, is you're supposed to kind of lay the clover cutout on the notes over the equipped clover in the bottom right, and that will help you through the section. However, since the pathway isn't random, I can just remember where to go, and that makes everything much easier than having to constantly drag it, because you don't have background in the input in this game, so you'd actually have to, like, you know, lay it over and then click back on the game. Stuff I'm not gonna need to do. Right, okay, I kind of blanked there. But in this last portion of the tower, we've done the maze, we've done the doors, now we need to do the grids. When it comes to the grids, we just need to, you know, run over the right tiles to make the right pattern. Once you're running, again, it takes 10 tiles to run a frame, 10 frames to run a tile before the next tile, before you make your next move. So all these reactions here on each turn, if I'm running straight without stopping, which I kind of stop here on this light bulb pattern because it's rather specific pattern, but I did it correctly. Yeah, each tile I have 10 frames to make a turn, which is kind of difficult to do when you're trying to move quickly. But fortunately, we're through now. And here I'm going to do a glitch. So I mentioned skipping cutscenes by closing and reopening the game earlier. But I'm actually going to skip a physics change. You might remember on stairs at the beginning of the game, I was there, and stairs, you can't run on them. If I do that quick glitch there to skip the game thinking I'm on the stairs, it'll let me run freely instead of letting me only walk left and right. And that gives me a state where I can freely move out of bounds, because just like I never actually go on the stairs, I never truly get off the stairs. And now, I'm just allowed to mash through this cutscene where we learn that, unlike we were told throughout the whole game, we can't both save the world by putting the light bulb at the top of the tower, and also, bring Nico home at the same time. We can only choose to do one of them. But once we make our decision, that's when the timer ends. So right there. It's gonna be open for a bid war if this gets in. That's kind of the marathon classic, is the bid war on that ending. 26:43 is literally a second behind my PB, so I'd say that's pretty good. But yeah, that's one shot. I'm going to show off this ending for now because the credits for the ending look prettier. But yeah, that is what this game has to offer. Just a short, neat little speedrun with a surprising amount to it for the type of game it is. So, thanks.